Hi everyone, it's Michelle here. Welcome back to Grounded Haven Homestead. Today I am going to be going over my entire seed collection. And after just a few years of gardening, I have accumulated an embarrassing number of seed packets. Maybe not embarrassing, this is actually just exciting for me. So let's consider it a happy thing instead of being ashamed of it. This is actually only one of my boxes. This is my vegetable box, and then I have another box for my flowers. I'll show you all of the different varieties I have, and as I go along, I'm also going to be explaining which ones I'm going to be growing this year for 2022 and which ones I'm not going to be growing, because that's also a very important thing. I have so many seeds that I can't possibly grow every variety of every tomato I have. So I have to be a little bit choosy this year to try and decide what is going to get space in our garden this year. These are the boxes that I store my seeds in. We got these from Walmart, and I'm not sure if these are for something specific, but here are the dimensions on them. And these have been working really well for me. They are a good size for seed packets, and this way I can keep my packets upright as well, which I think is important so that your seeds don't fall out of the packet and mix all up together. I have two of these boxes. One is for flowers and one is for vegetables. Inside here I've made up some dividers, and to make those, I just took some pieces of acetate, this like clear plastic material, and I stapled on these little tags on top. The reason I did the acetate instead of cardboard is because the cardboard was too stiff, and in order to make them stick up, the lid wouldn't close. So this way with the acetate, it's able to bend a little bit and they can close, but when I open it up, they'll still stick up a little bit. So I have a few sections for these here. First I have the beans and peas, so I'll show you those. The first thing I have are some Tennessee red peanuts. These are the peanuts we've grown for the last 2 years, and now we just save our own peanuts. So this was part of the harvest from last year, and I just save them in the shell to keep them a little bit protected, and then when it's time to plant them, we can crack them out of the shells and plant them. So we will be growing the peanuts again this year. I probably shouldn't have done those first. Now everything is kind of dirty. Next I have a couple of varieties of peas. I have some sugar snap peas, and then I also have snow peas. I don't grow shelling peas because they're too much work to shell, so these are both varieties where you can eat the pod as well as the peas inside. I find that the snow peas are a little bit more productive than the snap peas. They're not quite as sweet, but they're both really good for stir frying. Then I have a few varieties of bush beans. I grew all of these last year and I like all of them. So I'll probably do that again this year and just use up the rest of these seeds. I have the contender bush bean, which is a green bush bean. I have the purple tea pea, which has dark purple pods, and then dragon tongue. These are flatter yellow pods with purple streaking on them. I like to grow all three of these because it's really pretty to have all the colors, but also they mature at different times. So last year the contender bush beans were the first to be ready to harvest, then the dragon tongue, and then a few weeks after the purple teepee. And I just plant them all at the same time, and it's kind of just like a built-in succession sowing, which is really nice. And last year we did really well with green beans, and I blanched and froze a lot of them. But even though I preserved so much, we're almost out of them. They're a really nice frozen vegetable to have on hand, so I will be trying to grow a lot of these again next year. These three varieties are all bush beans, and then I have one variety of pole beans, so this one needs to be trellis. This is the rattlesnake pole bean. This one's kind of similar to the dragon tongue bean in that it has purple streaking, so it's a little bit easier to find when you're picking. These ones will grow over a longer period of time. The only thing is that these ones can get a little bit fibrous if they get too big, whereas beans like the dragon tongue bush bean can get really large without getting any kind of like stringiness or fibrousness to them. So these ones you have to make sure you get at like a certain time, but they do produce very well for us. Then I have Asian long beans. I have a green variety and also a red variety, and these are really nice because they do well in the heat of the summer, and we live in a hot climate, so these do really well here when the bush beans are petering out. These ones are just getting started. So we have beans in some form pretty much for like 6 months straight during the growing season. I like to grow both of these, again for the different colors, and again because they mature at different times. So last year the green ones matured first, and they also started to kind of like dry out and peter out. But then when those weren't looking so good, the red yard-long beans were just getting started. So it's really nice to have both of them. And these year-long beans are crazy productive. You only need a few plants of each of these and you'll be drowning in beans. You'll probably notice in a lot of these photos that I'm popping up on the screen here, there are year-long beans in like every single harvest from the summer. And lastly, I have a new variety that we're trying. This is edamame, so they're soybeans. This grows kind of like a bush bean, but they do take just a little bit longer. This one takes 80 days. So yeah, that'll be fun to try this year. The next section is root vegetables, and I'll start with the shorter day radishes I have. I have a sparkler white tip, I have a French breakfast radish, and then I also have a white hailstone radish. The sparkler and French breakfast I've grown before. This is like very standard for us. And I also have grown the scarlet globe. Those are all pretty much about the same in terms of flavor and how long they'll take to grow. I don't think I've grown these white ones before, so I'm interested to try that. Radishes are something that I never feel bad buying because we're going to use up the seeds. I pop radishes everywhere. They're really good to plant in between other crops that take a long time to get started, or I can plant them underneath the canopy of things. I can buy as many packets as I want and I know that they'll get used up. Those are like the short day radishes. Then I also have some that for us have to be grown in the fall. I have China Rose and Daikon. We had pretty good luck with these this past fall, and I will be growing these not in the spring because they won't do well here, but they're great for the fall. And they also store really nicely once you harvest them. I have some in the fridge that we harvested like over a month ago and they're still doing great. Next I have some carrots. I have these purple dragon carrots. Something happened with my seed pack. I think it got wet or something, which is why I store them in these like guitar string packets that Aaron always has. So these seeds are originally from Baker Creek and we haven't had much success with these. I'm gonna try them again because I might as well use up the seeds, but I'm not relying on these to do well. The one that we've grown that has done well are these Danvers half-long carrots, and this seed packet is from our local co-op, and I really like shopping there for seeds because they're so affordable. If you can see here, this packet of seeds was under $3, and there's just like a crazy amount of seed here. Probably like thousands and thousands of carrot seeds. It's kind of crazy. This will last us a really long time, and carrots are one thing that sometimes can be tricky to germinate, so I like to really oversow them in case some of them don't germinate, so it's nice to have a really big quantity so I don't have to feel so precious about it. So these are the ones that did well for us last year. They're the Danvers half long. They're a little bit smaller. I also have a variety here, also from Baker Creek, and this is like a bigger orange carrot, but again, we just haven't had too much luck with these. I'll try them again just to finish off the seed. This is a new packet that I got in like a set from Botanical Interests, and this is a pretty standard variety. I don't know if we've grown this one specifically, but I'll be growing those. Next I have some golden beets, and we have not had good luck with these. We've grown red beets like decently, but golden beets just haven't taken for us. And I think I only have a few seeds left, so I'm gonna try and use the rest of these up and see if we can give it one last go. Next I have some rutabaga seeds. These ones have done okay for us. They're something that I'll like throw in if we have space, but it's not something that I'm gonna specifically dedicate space to. I think I prefer turnips, which we grew last year. And again, this is a packet from my co-op. And again, you can just see how many seeds are in there, and I got this packet for $2.39, so quite a deal. Something that's new for me is parsnips. I want to grow these this year, but it'll be interesting because they take a really long time to grow, 100 days till maturity. And it's better if they come to maturity during the fall and get a couple of frosts on them so they get sweeter. I'll be planting this maybe in like early summer, and we'll see if those do well for us. The next section is lettuce and greens. I'll start with the lettuce. We have Paris Island Cause, which is like a romaine style lettuce. We grow this one a lot. Then I have a mixed lettuce. This came free when we ordered our green stock, so that'll be a nice mix. And then this is one that we got free in our recent Baker Creek order, Merlot lettuce. Next we have red vein sorrel. It is a perennial, so we've had a few plants going in our garden for a few years, so I haven't really had to start any new plants. And that's really nice. Once you get it started once, it will go really long into the winter and come back in the spring. So that's a nice one to have around. Then I have Auric. This is one that you can kind of eat like spinach. I actually bought this for like cut flowers because this didn't come with very many seeds in it. It only had 40 seeds. And if you're growing greens, that really isn't much at all. So I'm not going to be growing this to eat. If I want to have it for cut flowers, I'll let it flower and it'll send up a nice stalk. So I'm not even really sure how this tastes. Then we have Swiss chard, the 5-color one. Swiss chard is one that I always grow because it's pretty and it's kind of nice to have because it will last really long into the summer when like things like kale are not doing well, but we just don't always eat it, especially the varieties that are like more red. They are a little too earthy tasting for us. So in the future when I shop for Swiss chard, I will probably only get the varieties that have like a green or yellow stalk because those tend to have a milder flavor. So just something to keep in mind. If you don't like things like beets, then you probably want to stay away from the ones that have the darker stems because they kind of taste like beet greens. Then I have a few varieties of like different Asian greens. I have this Chinese broccoli. We haven't had much luck with this, so we'll give it one more go, but I probably will not try to grow this again. I'm just not sure if it's something that will grow well in our area unless maybe we get like a hybrid variety that is more heat tolerant. Then I have bok choy. I don't think bok choy does the best for us in the spring. It's better in the fall, but I also tend to have a lot of struggles with slugs. But it's something I will always try and hopefully I'll get it right sometime because I love bok choy. Tatsoi is one that I just tried out last year and we actually have some growing in our green stock right now and it's looking really good. It's a very cold tolerant green. So again, probably better for the fall and not for the spring. Next, I have a few varieties of kale. I have dinosaur kale. This is one of my favorites in terms of flavor, but it's not quite as cold hardy. Then there is Russian red or ragged jack. This one is a little bit more cold hardy and it has kind of like flat leaves, but the edges are frilly. And then we have Siberian kale, the most cold hardy of all of them. And lastly, we have collards, one of our favorite greens, and these are great for the fall. Now we're into my pepper section and this one is pretty hefty. I have a lot of peppers. I love collecting pepper seeds and growing them. They're just really fun. I love that you have so many varieties between like the different sizes and the colors, and then you have your sweet ones and hot ones. There's just so much to play around with. So I've organized them kind of by variety. First I'm going to go over like the larger bell pepper kinds that are sweeter. I have California Wonder, which is a pretty standard one. Another one that's similar to that is Ruby King. I think I'll be growing both of these even though they're similar. I mostly just want to use these seeds up because they're a little bit older. Then I have Ichvarsky, which is probably our favorite sweet pepper. It has the best flavor, it's very sweet, and they have really like thick walls too, so they're nice and meaty. This is a new one for us. It's like a bell pepper, but it's supposed to be really big. So I think I'm gonna grow maybe like one of all of these. That's kind of excessive because they're all kind of like the same general flavor, but I kind of can't help myself. I'll probably just grow them all. Next, I have peppers that are also considered kind of like sweet peppers. Like they're not spicy peppers, but they're a little bit smaller. First, we have the shishito pepper, one of our favorite new varieties from last year. The peppers are kind of like small and wrinkled. And I think I'm going to try growing these plants in our green stock just because they are a little bit on the smaller side. So I think they'll do well there. And then we have the korbachi pepper. This is a new one for us. Just like really long skinny peppers that are supposed to have a really nice flavor. And then a standard banana. Then we have our hot peppers. These are habanero seeds that I saved from peppers that we grew from a start last year. I don't think I'll grow these this year just because they take so long to get to harvest. And we're not a huge fan of like hot peppers, and these are like pretty up there in terms of spice level. I have Korean chili peppers. I probably will grow these. They were super productive and started producing very early on. Then I have some poblano peppers, one of my favorite like mild peppers that's great for Mexican food. Anaheim, this is a new one for me, and I think this one's more of like a mild medium heat, and I'll be trying those out this year. Standard jalapeno, I think these ones I will also try growing in the green stock. and then a new one, these red flame peppers, which are cayenne peppers. And last section of peppers, a really fun one. These are what I would consider seasoning peppers. They're not necessarily sweet or spicy, they just have a lot of flavor. So this one is the arroz con pollo, and this is one that I grew 2 years ago, and I got so many peppers that I didn't have to grow them this past year. And I actually still have a quart of these frozen in the freezer right now. But just to make sure I can get it through the year after, once I'm done with those, I'm gonna grow these again this year. Maybe I'll just need one plant this time. And these are great, of course, for seasoning chicken and rice. I mean, that is the name. But I love to throw 1 or 2 of these in anytime I cook a pot of dried beans because they add a lot of complex flavor that's really nice in there. And then this is a new one for me, paprika. This is like a more spicy variety, I believe, and I want to grow this to dry it to make a spicy paprika powder. I also throw my eggplants in with my peppers just because I start them around the same time. I only have 1 variety here. I thought I had 2, but I must have misplaced the packet somewhere. But I like to grow this variety of eggplant, like the longer, skinnier Asian types. They have fewer seeds than Italian eggplants, and they're a little bit sweeter. So I'll be growing a few of those. Next we have the tomato section, and this is one where I am trying to be a little bit choosy this year because I just have so many that I don't think I can grow them all. Even if I grew only like 1 of each variety, it's still a lot. But I feel like I have a pretty good gauge on which ones I don't like, that I can be a little bit more selective. So let me start with these 2 varieties. These are ones that are like really dwarf varieties. So we have Tiny Tim, and this one is called Cherry Falls. These are 2 that I haven't grown, and I'm going to try growing them in our green stock. Since they are dwarf varieties, they should do really well in containers, so I think that will be perfect to try those out. I believe both of these are just like little cherry tomatoes. Next I have grape and cherry small tomatoes. I have the Artisan Blush. I don't think I'm going to be growing this one. We tried it last year and the flavor was really good, but production was not that great. I also didn't really like the plants because they got really tall and the leaves are really droopy, and the fruit also was pretty prone to cracking. So I think I'm gonna skip that this year. I might try it again in the future just because they are really pretty. And then I have the Jasper. This one was like a standard cherry that we grew last year, and it did do well. The fruit got a little smaller as the season went on, but I think I'm gonna skip that this year and instead grow these Mexico midget ones. This packet is a little bit older, and I kind of just want to give this plant one more go while the seeds are a little bit fresher. And I don't think I need like 2 different kinds of red cherry tomatoes because they kind of all taste the same, I think. Then I have Sun Gold, definitely gonna grow those. Really nice, sweet, citrusy flavor. And then this is a new tomato, the Pink Bumblebee. This one's also in the same Artisan series as the Artisan Blush. So I'm gonna try this one and see if I like it more than the Artisan Blush. Next I have a bunch of varieties that I would consider kind of like preserving tomatoes. They're not all paste tomatoes, but a lot of them I will preserve as diced tomatoes, so they're kind of like all in the same section. So I'll start with the ones I have grown before. The BHN 1021. We grew this last year and I really liked it, and it canned really well also. I believe they're like a little bit on the larger side, maybe like 10 to 12 ounces, if not more than that, and they do well for diced tomatoes. Last year we also grew the Speckled Roman, which is a plum tomato that's supposed to be good for paste. I didn't get very good production off of these, and the skin for these also like kind of looked a little bit diseased. Maybe it had like a fungal issue, but all of my plants were like that, so I'm gonna skip these this year. And instead I'm gonna try Roma, which is a pretty standard one, but I've never started these from seed. I've only ever bought starts. And then I'm also going to try this hybrid Plum Regal, which is also like a plum paste tomato. Estiva is one that I grew last year. They're a little bit on like the small to medium size. I didn't really love these. The texture was a little bit weird and they didn't have very good flavor, so I'm gonna skip these. Celebrity is a new one that I want to try, and I think these will be similar size and production to the BHN 1021, and I want to see if we like those and if they're good for canning. Oh, by the way, one thing about the BHN and the Celebrity, these are determinate tomatoes, which I really like. I find them easier to grow than indeterminate tomatoes because there's a little bit less staking and maintenance with that. And then one other determinate bush variety. This is the Ace 55. This is a new one. And it says great for canning, so that would be good. This one is supposed to be really good for sun drying because I think it's like a drier variety, so it should be good for dehydrating. So I'm excited to try that one out. And then last two, these are like classic heirloom specialty tomatoes. So first I have a purple Russian tomato. We grew these 2 years ago and it was probably one of my favorite tomatoes in terms of taste, but they cracked like crazy. I think I'm gonna grow one plant of these this year and see if I have better luck with them now that we're on a drip system, because 2 years ago we weren't and water was just really inconsistent. So I wonder if that's why they cracked really badly. And then Paul Robeson, another one with really, really good flavor. And I don't think we grew this past year, but we grew it 2 years ago. So those are all my tomatoes. I think in total I'm growing 14 different varieties this year. But for most of them I can only grow like 1 or 2 plants just because I have so many and we don't have that much space. I also throw in my tomatillos and ground cherries with my tomatoes. I actually think I'm not gonna grow either of these this year. Tomatillos do okay for us and we like them enough, but if I'm honest, there's probably things that I like to eat more than tomatillos. So sadly, I think I'm gonna skip that this year. Ground cherries, it's kind of the same thing. They were really fun to grow and they do taste good, but I think I'd rather have more space for like peppers and tomatoes. Also, ground cherries, I've heard, are supposed to reseed really easily, and we definitely had plenty of fruit drop to the ground last year. So even if I don't start it, I'm thinking that we're probably gonna get some volunteers in the garden. So I'm gonna skip starting those to save myself the trouble. Next is my squash and pumpkins section. So first I'll start off with like the standard zucchinis and summer squash. These are two that I've grown in the past. Generally, we just like don't really have great success with squash. So I've probably only gotten a few fruit of each of these varieties off of the plants I've attempted to grow. So we're gonna try again. We also have Emerald Delight. I think this one might be a hybrid. Yeah, this one's a hybrid, so it might do a little bit better. I'm gonna do a whole row of zucchini this year and cover them with tulle or insect netting. And I'm really hoping that that can help us with our squash bug and vine borer problem. And I think what I'm gonna do is like grow a couple of each of these varieties. And I wanna see if the hybrid varieties do better or the same than the heirlooms. And they'll be all in the same row and they'll all be covered. So I feel like that'll be a good test to see if protective measures will really help them. For my other hybrid variety, I have a golden yellow zucchini. So I've got 2 hybrids and 2 heirlooms, 1 green and 1 yellow for each of those. So I feel like that would be a pretty good test to see which ones do the best. I have some winter squash here. I have some butternut. I don't know if these seeds are any good. I saved them myself, but they don't look like they'll grow. So instead of butternut, I'll probably grow honey nut. These are smaller plants and smaller fruits as well. They're kind of like single serving, really sweet butternut squash. I have spaghetti squash. We're gonna attempt those. We might not get anything. Last year we didn't get any winter squash, but I'll just give them all a go. Then we have some kabocha squash, which is a Japanese pumpkin. This pumpkin is like a Cinderella pumpkin. Attempted it last year, but didn't get anything. Delicata, I've tried for the last 2 years and have like barely gotten anything off of these. So I don't know if the variety just isn't for us or what, but so far we have not had good luck with these. The last 2 seeds are kind of like more specialty squash and gourds. The first one is Kukuzi. This is going to be a new one that I want to try because we have so much difficulty growing zucchini. Since this one is a gourd, which I think is different, I think that the bugs that attack our zucchini won't attack these. So I'm hoping that this grows a little bit better for us. And then these are seeds for our silk squash, which we grow every year. They're super easy to grow, very low maintenance, and drought tolerant as well. And the bugs don't bother them. This is called Chinese okra, and it's a relative of the loofah gourd, but we eat these young like zucchini. One more for the pumpkin section. I don't really know what this is called. It just says round green pumpkin. These are seeds that my mom and I bought at a Korean grocery store. So I've never grown those before. Next is my cucumber and melon section, and I don't know how this happened. Did I like black out and order a bunch of cucumber seeds. Like I don't know how this happened. Cucumbers are not even something that I feel very strongly about, and I somehow amassed like 10 different varieties of cucumbers. Does this happen to anyone else? So anyway, the first one here is called Miniature White. This is one I've grown for a couple years and I like it. It's like a small itty bitty cucumber. It's good for pickling, has a really sweet, nice flavor, and it's a small plant as well. This one I'm gonna try in the green stalk. The Mexican sour gherkin, also called the cucamelon. I don't like these. We grew these last year and I know it's like a cool thing and they're cute, but they take so long to get going. We don't like the flavor and they're annoying to pick because they're like literally and like half an inch long. So I'm not going to be growing these probably ever again. Okay, then I have a few varieties of pickling cucumbers. First I have Little Leaf. This is a hybrid from Johnny's. This one will be new, so I don't know how that's going to do. Then we have Chicago pickling. This is an heirloom variety. This one's done okay for us. But last year we just like didn't really have very good luck with cucumbers anyway, so I don't know if I can really be a good reviewer of these things. Then I have a marketer variety, which is like a slicer cucumber. I have the silver slicer. This one didn't really live up to its expectations for me. It did okay, but I wasn't like wowed by it. I have the Suyo Long. I haven't really had enough success with these to have an opinion on those yet. These are another one I haven't tried. A Korean cucumber. It looks like it's kind of like an English cucumber, like longer, and it looks like it might be seedless. So if those do well, I will really like that. I like that kind of cucumber. And lastly, probably the one I'm most excited to grow this year, the Armenian yardlong. This is botanically a melon, but you can eat it young like a cucumber. They get really big, so that will be cool if we can get even just a couple of those. I think that would be fun. We've got some sweet melons. We have a honeydew. This one did well for us 2 years ago. Last year we didn't get anything, but I'll try one plant of these. Then I have a cantaloupe. I think cantaloupe is more prone to being attacked by squash bugs, so last year our plants died. And then we have a crimson sweet watermelon. I'm not going to grow this one this year because I'm going to be growing a new variety of watermelon that we're trying out called Orange Glow. I actually don't know where my packet of seeds is. It should be in this section. But those are the ones we're going to grow as our watermelon for this year. And then for our Asian melons, we have 2 varieties of winter melon. These are seeds from my parents. These are the winter melons that are also known as ash gourd because they form a white powdery coating on the outside and they're a little bit smaller. They're like 4 to 5 pounds. And then these seeds, the wax melon, this is the one that we grew one massive one last year and I just cut that open for a recent video. So I'll probably be growing these again just because it was so fun to grow something so big. I'm gonna choose one of these to grow, maybe the round ones. I kind of use them all interchangeably, so realistically speaking, I probably don't need like 3 plants for each of these because these plants can get really big. Like this one took over an entire arch trellis, so I can only have one of these plants. And then I'll just decide which of these ones to plant later on. Next we have our cabbage and broccoli section. So first I'm going to start with the hybrids because this is what I'm going to try this year, mainly for the spring and summer. I have my Green Magic hybrid broccoli and then a Bishop white cauliflower. And I'm going to be starting these really soon actually. Then I have a couple of heirloom varieties. I have Red Acre cabbage, Cordoba cabbage, and purple cauliflower. Of these 3, I think the only one I would grow again is probably this cabbage. This is the only one I've really had success with, and if my hybrids do well, I think it's kind of just a waste of time to try planting these. As pretty as they are, it's really nice to have like red and purple varieties like that, but if they don't grow well for us, then there's not really a point. Also this Napa cabbage, that's one I will definitely grow. It's great for making kimchi and also for making dumplings, so that's like a must-have for me in the fall. I did try growing this in the spring though last year, and it does not work for us in the spring. Then we have the purple sprouting broccoli. I like this variety. It's one that overwinters. I did have some out in the garden, but when our neighbor came to babysit our chickens for us while we were out of town, she kind of pulled them out and fed them to the chickens. So I'm not gonna have any for the spring this year, but I'll start them in the summer in 2022 for 2023's harvest, which is kind of crazy to be thinking that far ahead, but these are one that need to overwinter, so you can't plant them for a summer harvest. Purple kohlrabi, I'm probably gonna skip this. We enjoy growing kohlrabi and it tastes good enough, but I think there are other things we like more, so I'm gonna skip this. For Brussels sprouts, I'm not really sure what my plan is. I do really want to learn to grow Brussels sprouts. We tried for the first time this fall, and I'm not sure how our plants are doing because they're covered by like inches of snow right now. They were like just starting to form their sprouts, but I think with like the cold weather we've had so far, they might be dead now. I'm not really sure. I do want to grow these again. I just have to figure out a game plan for them. Next we have the herbs. I have a few varieties of basil, classic Genovese, Italian basil, and then probably one of my favorites. I don't know, I might even like this more than Italian basil. This is Thai basil. It just smells so good and it has a little bit more of like a spicier flavor than Italian basil. But of course I'll always grow Italian basil so that we can have pesto. Then there's holy basil. This is a good one to grow to make tea out of. I do need to start some of these this year. Last year we didn't have any in the garden. And then lastly, lemon basil. I don't really like to eat this one, but I grow it for cut flowers. Then we have some thyme, which I actually just started a few videos ago. Also sage. This is one that overwinters for us, so I started these a few years ago and they're still doing great in the garden, so I don't need to start anymore. Chamomile, a great one for tea. And then parsley. This is a really nice variety, this giant parsley, because you only need one plant and it gets like really massive. And then lastly, lemongrass, which again, I have already started these and they're growing right now and looking really good. Oh, also cilantro. I like to grow cilantro in like one big patch and I'll harvest it all at once and freeze it. Cilantro doesn't grow well for us because it does not like the heat at all. Like if it's hot for one day, it will bolt. So I kind of just have to grow a big patch and then batch harvest it, and then I can use it in the future for like salsas or whatever. But I'll have to grow this pretty early in the spring and then maybe again in the fall. Here's my section of onions and leeks and shallots. I'm just gonna go over these really quickly because I just went over all of them in a video where I was starting all of these seeds. So I have my Cabernet red onions, shallots, a long red onion, Australian brown, and then King Richard leeks. And then I finished off some of the other packets I had, so those are gone now. My final section is just random stuff that didn't fit in any other section, so it's like a mishmash of things. I have celery, which I've already started. Then I have a sweet corn, or maybe we'll do these ones, the golden bantam. And then this is one variety we probably won't grow again, at least not for a while. We grew this a couple years ago. This is like a drying corn that you're supposed to be able to make popcorn out of it, but we could not get the hydration levels right and I couldn't get it to pop. So it made for really pretty decoration, but other than that, it was not really like a source of food for us. We just fed it to the wild birds. Then we have burgundy okra. I will be growing these again, but I kind of want to grow a green variety because we had a really strange thing last year where these hornets came and they were really attracted to any of our plants that were like this color. This burgundy okra and also our Chinese red yard-long beans, they would chew the plants and also like the actual fruit. It was a really weird thing, and hopefully we don't have a hornet problem again. And I don't know how to explain why that happened, but if we could grow a green variety, I think whatever attracts them to these red plants, they won't be attracted to the green ones. Anyway, that's kind of like a side note. Most people probably won't have to worry about that, so. Then I have goji berries. I planted these last year and you're supposed to be able to harvest them after 2 years. So I'm hoping that this year the plants will come back after winter and we'll see if they grow. And it's supposed to be like a perennial shrub. So I'm not gonna start these just because if those other ones are good, then I shouldn't have to. I have crimson clover. This is one that I just use as a cover crop. And then this one is dill, so this should go in the herb section. But that's it. That is my entire vegetable seed collection. And I actually think I'm going to be growing a lot of these varieties this year. It's probably not the most efficient way to garden because I have to start like 1 or 2 plants of every variety, and it's probably much better to just do like 10 of one variety. But I think it's kind of fun to have lots of cool things, and I have to be able to justify my seed buying habit by actually growing at least one of each plant. Because if the packet just stays there and doesn't get used, then I'm gonna have to limit myself, and I don't want to do that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was a little bit long, but I personally love to talk about seeds, and I love to hear other people talking about seeds too, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Thank you so much for watching. I'm excited to share this year's garden with you all, and I'll see you again in the next video.